Hey! Hi! How you doing? This is the Gamertron and welcome back to the Gamertron Show, and finally, I am talking about Life is Strange Before the Storm, Episode 2, Brave New World. Now, back with the first episode of Life is Strange Before the Storm, while I liked it, while it was good, I couldn't help but feel disappointed in a few areas. Unfortunately, some of those disappointments continue into Episode 2, but overall, Episode 2, Brave New World of Life is Strange Before the Storm, has managed to keep me hooked and engaged and satisfied. This episode continues to play on the strengths of Before the Storm, that being of the main protagonist Chloe, her dialogue and interactions with the characters and situations around her, the nostalgia and fan service to those who have played the previous Life is Strange, and keeping up and building up a mystery around the character of Rachel Amber and her family. I gotta say, Episode 2 impressed me with the emotional moments, the twists in the story, the actual story choices given to the player which are actually significant and actually genuinely affect the rest of the game, incentivizing multiple playthroughs to see the different outcomes of the choices. I was genuinely having a good time and I was invested. Not at the same level as I was with the original Life is Strange, but Before the Storm is charming and endearing in its own way. Now, let me talk about the individual aspects of Life is Strange Before the Storm Episode 2. First up, visuals and graphics. Like the first episode, unfortunately, there are still several character models and pieces of the environment with very low texture quality, and it can be very immersion breaking. However, to compensate for every muddy, ugly looking texture, Episode 2 of Before the Storm really goes out of its way to showcase its creativity with its art style. Something I think the first episode lacked a bit, but Episode 2 seems to go out of its way to create these moments, like the first Life is Strange did, to have scenes like moving, breathing, living water paintings, and have environments look vibrant and lived in. Before the Storm also continues with Episode 2 to do a great job of mirroring the environments and locations from the first Life is Strange. The junkyard, the principal's office, the parking lot, Frank's trailer van. Despite, in my opinion and from my perspective, not looking as good as the original Life is Strange, it is still able to capture some of that magic with the look and feel of the environment. So overall, I'd say the visuals, the graphics, they're a bit of a mixed bag. For every ugly, muddy texture, there's a beautiful scene soon afterwards. Moving on to the gameplay presented in Episode 2. It's more or less the same from Episode 1, but with an increased emphasis on puzzles, some of which were quite clever, and really had me engaged, had me leaving autopilot mode from walking Chloe from one narrative event to the next, and actually focusing and thinking on how to solve the puzzle. There's also a lot more environmental exploration, picking up and collecting and looking for items. It does a good job, again, of making these environments feel lived in, feel real in a sense, with usually some either hilarious or cringy commentary from main character Chloe.
Don't tell me what to do.
Ah, she is an absolute treasure. One aspect that slightly disappointed me when it came to the gameplay is the backtalk segments featuring Chloe arguing with another character. I do like how they are a bit more optional, the players given a bit more choice as to whether or not they want to engage in the backtalk segments. In the first episode, they felt really necessary. In the second episode, it feels like there's a bit more options, there's a bit more wiggle room, and interesting and sometimes worthwhile consequences if you avoid backtalk. It adds some really nice replayability to the episode, to see how backtalk affects the different conversations with characters, and the outcomes soon after. My problem though with the backtalk segments in Episode 2 is there's no difficulty scaling. You would think that as the Before the Storm series keeps going on and progressing, that the backtalk segments would slowly increase in difficulty. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. It just makes sense to me that as the game progresses, the difficulty would scale, slowly getting harder and harder to test how much you've learned and improved yourself on the game's mechanics. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I play the vast majority of my video games on easy difficulty, but even I, as someone who usually plays video games on easy difficulty, find that these backtalk segments are at times a bit too easy, a bit too forgiving. The answers are at times just a bit too obvious. But then again, that's just my personal opinion, that's just my perspective. This will vary from person to person. I'm sure there are some players out there who find these backtalk segments genuinely challenging, picking the right replies and remarks. Just my personal opinion, my personal perspective on the backtalk segments in Episode 2, I found them to be just a tad bit too easy. I honestly believe that some of the backtalk segments in the first episode were a bit tougher, a bit stronger, a bit more engaging. But again, I think this aspect of the game and the gameplay will vary from person to person. Finally, moving on to the narrative, to the story. The most important aspect of Life is Strange. And I am happy happy to say it has quite improved from the first episode. Narrative story choices are more important and more impactful than ever, genuinely completely changing how the episode plays out. There is some genuinely interesting and engaging character development for main protagonist Chloe and secondary main character Rachel Amber. The player is also given a surprising amount of choices and variety on how the relationship between Chloe and Rachel fosters. Do you want them to become lovers? Best friends? Do you want them to have a rocky and rough relationship with them almost hating and distrusting each other? It's possible. There are also several genuine, memorable repercussions from your choices from the first episode. And episode 2 also gets really creative with its situations that it throws Chloe in. Some of them sad, some of them funny, some of them intense, some of them having you go, aww, and others having you go, what the fuck just happened? I find episode 2 of Before the Storm does a much better job of engaging the player than episode 1 did. And again, some of these scenarios Chloe is placed in are genuinely really interesting and engaging and memorable. There's one in particular that had me laughing my ass off, because I never, in a million years, expected this character to be put in this situation. And it's glorious. I won't spoil it for you, but it's so funny. It's so entertaining. There's also a fair amount of fan service in this episode, and answering some questions, or at least providing confirmation on implications from the original Life is Strange. For instance, it was implied and hinted at that the character Victoria was jealous of Rachel. We get to see that on full display in this episode. It was also hinted at and implied in Life is Strange that the character Nathan has a real negative relationship with his father, and we finally get to meet that father character. As a big fan of the original Life is Strange, it was very satisfying to see these questions, to see these implications finally confirmed and answered. I have to admit, episode 2 of Life is Strange Before the Storm really got me, really got its hooks into me. I am now really excited for the final and third episode. I'm really curious to see how this all wraps up, and to see how much replayability there really is with all the different story choices. Life is Strange Before the Storm is shaping up to be a worthy prequel to Life is Strange. I still prefer the original Life is Strange over Before the Storm, but the developers of Before the Storm are obviously doing their best, and they obviously genuinely care about the characters, the story, and the franchise. So despite my disappointments, I am still very pleased with Life is Strange Before the Storm Episode 2, Brave New World. And so, that's been a video. I hope you liked the video. If you did indeed like the video in any way, shape, or form, please be sure to hit the like button. Hitting the like button helps you, helps me, helps everybody involved with the video. If you hit the like button, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. What do you think of Life is Strange Before the Storm Episode 2? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you want to help out and support this video, then please share it on social media, Twitter and Facebook. And if you want to help out and support me directly, well, there's always Patreon. Anyways, guys, this has been a video, and I'll see you all later.